Thank you very much for everybody to take your time and participate in this very exciting first of the year kind of a open forum for the community of practice, community local and the regional food system that is a part of the eXtension network. My name is Kathleen Liang, and I am a faculty with North Carolina Agriculture and Technical State University. I'm also the director with the Center for Environmental Farming Systems at the North Carolina A&T. The material we present today, the discussion we share today, and your question, reflections typed in the chat box will all be available online that Katie will help us to upload it to our Community of Practice website. The presentation is also recorded, voice recording. So if anybody who cannot participate, they can still listen to it if they feel like it. So next slide, please. I want to thank USDA NIFA and the many partners that provided the funding and the resources to support eXtension in general. And a special thanks go to Ms. Katie Wright and Mr. Doctor, or however he wants to call himself, Brian Raisin. Katie Wright has been with our community of practice for several years now, and she's currently funded through a USDA grant that I have here at North Carolina A&T. And we also encourage other collaborators to work with our community of practice and share the resources to support Katie's time. Her job involves helping us to do things like this: national, regional, local level discussion on online information maintenance, information searching, upload, download, all this stuff, and basically updating a lot of resources for you all to use. Brian is a long-term supporter with our community of practice, and today we're using his Zoom from Ohio State University, so I want to give a special kudos to Ohio State University for supporting us to do this Zoom meeting with everybody. You will see Brian's and Katie's contact information in the next few slides, so feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any question about how to engage in our activities. And I particularly want to thank all the presenters and participants today that you're here sharing information with us. Thank you. Next slide, please. Today we're going to talk about a brief introduction of our community practice. We conducted a brief survey with all of our members, and then we have a couple of nice, great, energetic speakers. They're eager to share their programs with you, and we will end with a special announcements and the open discussion that everybody can chime in to share some of the information you'd like to share with us. Next slide, please. A lot of people had a question, especially the newcomers with the eXtension who are not very familiar with the eXtension system and how our community of practice works. So I'd like to take a few minutes to do a quick overview about the system, the information, how you log in, how you find the information, how you find other resources that it might be of your interest. Next slide, please. This is the main website of eXtension. The website page is really simple. It's just www.extension.org. And this website is the national venue that hosts all kinds of community practices, resources. Sometimes they have small grant opportunities. They look for initiatives. They look for programs. It's a great venue when we share information, outcomes, impacts, best practices, a showcase, research, non-research related information. It's a very deep and rich wealth of knowledge that we host under the eXtension website. Now you're going to ask me, so Kathleen, are you eXtension? Well, I'm kind of, somewhat. My appointment here at the North Carolina A&T is a three-way appointment. I am Extension because of my work with the Center for Environmental Farming Systems, but I also have research and the teaching responsibilities here. So I'm not a full-time eXtension employee in that per se. Brian, Katie, and I, we all have our real jobs out there that really give us a salary. We're doing this for extension audience as a volunteer service purpose only. So if you have anything that you want us to improve to enhance our service, please feel free to share with us. Now we will do our best to help you out. So on the menu, you will see there are different categories on the toolbar here. You can click on different bars. Next slide, please. You can actually find out which institution is a part of a membership organization with the E extension. All the land-grant institutions with cooperative extension services are encouraged to participate, but I don't think e-extension requires everybody to participate. If you're a new employee with your institution associated with a cooperative extension, I will encourage you to talk to your supervisor or the directors and ask them, hey, are we involved with the e-extension? This is the most recent list I downloaded from the website, but I think the new list for 2019 should be available very soon. And then you don't even have to be a cooperative extension employee to participate. Any individuals, any community organizations, for-profit, non-profit, in any industry, any capacity, anybody who would like to be a part of our membership, you can sign up to participate with community of practice that I will show you in the next slide. Next slide, please. This is on the main website of eXtension.org. If you roll down to the very bottom of that main homepage, you will see this menu shows up. It shows you the resource areas. I saw some people on our survey asking questions about resources. Some people were a little bit frustrated and confused, not knowing where to find the resource information. But here is that reservoir, that kind of library kind of thing I mentioned earlier. The community, if you take a look, I highlighted our community, the community, local, and the regional food systems right there. So each phrase is a link, and you can click on the link to show you each community of practice, what kind of activities they have, what kind of resources they share, and so on and so forth. But beyond the community of practice, we also have subject matters. For example, disaster issues, energy, environment, family, farm, health and nutrition, lawn and garden, pest management, and the youth. This is by no means the comprehensive list. This list could evolve in any time, any capacity, that when a group of colleagues or a group of people sharing similar passions, similar interests to identify an initiative that you would like to contribute and share information across the broad spectrum of e-extension audience, we can do this. We can ask the e-extension master to help us to organize a subgroup or sub-team under each subject line. So this is a very flexible system that we can all find some kind of information that we can utilize in our own programs, in our own activities, evaluations, assessment, that sort of thing. So I'm going to pause for a minute and give some of you a chance to type in a question or comments or anything else you like to know through the general overview of eXtension. And Katie will monitor the chat box and let me know if there's anybody with any question or any comments. Now, I know you're all eager to do something, so let's do a little exercise here. We didn't do a formal survey about who you are, where you're at. So if you're kind enough, Share your location, which is state you're from, your name if you'd like to, first name, nickname, any name you want to let us know, that'll be fine. So if you can type in the chat box your name, your organization, and then your current location, just a state. If you want us to know the city, that's all right, that'll be good. But the most importantly, we're interested in your position. What's your current position in your existing or prospective work environment? That'd be very helpful. And I will pause a minute for everybody to type in this information right now. Thank you very much. I see quite a few people are in that cold front scenario right now. I'm very sorry about where you're at, because the weather condition can be very challenging in your locations, and we definitely, our heart goes to where you're at. And I'm sitting here in Greensboro, North Carolina. Usually the average temperature is about 50 degrees, but today we have 23. But comparing to where I was at for 18 years, Vermont, this is definitely much better. This is a heat wave for me, so I have no complaint at all. All right, so next slide, please. Now, to go a little bit further about our community, local, and regional food systems, this is the menu that when you click on the link under the community resource, you will see this. And I had a little pull-down menu to show that's where my name is at. And when I sign up to be a eXtension participant, I would have to do my profile and then identify how I would like to share my information, and then password, those kind of thing. eXtension will assign you an eXtension ID, and then you sign up with your own password that way. So it's not going to be the same as your institutional login ID. I have a feeling you can change it if you want to, but please keep that eXtension ID with you if you don't want to change it. That's how you're going to come back again and again to our website to access some of the information that may be under protection. What we offer through our community, local, and the regional food system community of practice is we document, collect, and share information about programs, curriculums, best practices, case studies, evaluation tools, article, report, news release, anything that you feel comfortable to help us to help you get the words out about what you're doing. And sometimes people are looking for partners to write grants. Some people are looking for partners, collaborators to share ideas, brainstorm something. That's where our listserv works for you. According to the survey, a lot of people use the listserv, and of course, a lot of people got sick of the listserv. So they're either way here. And then we do open forum. We skipped the last year. We didn't do any open forum last year due to some constraints, challenges for our own time. But there were also a variety of webinars, discussions that hosted by other organizations. We saw some duplication there, so we would prefer you join and share information with other organizations so we don't have to take upon too much of your time. This year, we started reorganizing the open forum because we see the need to convene and connect with you all again to provide a better service. You see my contact information again down there, Brian's contact information, Ohio State University, and the Miss Katie Wright information. So feel free to reach out to us if you need any help and anything you're looking for, you don't know where to find it. We might be able to help out a little bit. Next slide, please. One service we provide religiously that other community of practice may or may not be doing is we provide good letter of support. Several presenters today online right now, that eXtension had provided a strong letter of support for them to apply for grants. But please be aware that since we're all volunteers, you got to help us out in the time management perspective. After I moved to North Carolina A&T in 2016, my workload probably tripled compared with what I had done before at the University of Vermont. But still, I had a lot of obligations to travel, to share information, coordinate training, those sort of things. So if you all can help me out and let me know that you are looking for this opportunity to apply for grants, and give me a month before the deadline that where you have to submit the grant, we can have a conversation. We can have an email exchange, however you feel comfortable. Usually we have a very brief phone call so I can learn more about your project, what you're looking for, how you intend to do, and then I will write the letter of support on behalf of our community of practice, and then tailor to fulfill your mission and your objectives that way. Most likely, I will like to ask for some support for you to support our resources. Basically, is Katie Wright's time because she's spending her time to help us to manage the information, to link your website and to link your project outcomes to serve the bigger audience. Or we would ask for some support like what Brian is doing right now to help us with the Zoom. So if Brian doesn't have time to do the Zoom meeting for us, maybe your institution can help us to host a Zoom meeting once a while. It's not a phenomenal amount of money we're asking for, but we do ask for a fair share so we can all support each other in the long term. And then we support majority of the requests. In a very few occasions, I remember it was due to the time constraint. Very few cases, the PI contacted me 3 days before the grant package has to go into grants.gov. And I am sorry that 3 days just not constitute sufficient time for me to even learn anything from anybody. And if I'm traveling, I'm out of town, I'm using the old flip phone, and I'm moving towards a jitterbug kind of thing. I don't have an iPhone. I don't have an iTablet. I don't have any iStuff with me. So when I'm traveling for business, I focus on my work. That will be challenging for me to help you to get a letter done in a very short time period. So I really appreciate that everybody understand we all help each other out, and that will facilitate our process much easier. And I'll pause here for a minute, see if anybody has any question, type into the chat box before we move on. You're all good. All right, so next slide, please. Very quickly, I'm going to go through the survey result. Thanks to Katie Wright, who managed the survey, summarized the results, and gave me some key points to share with everybody. 87 of our members out of about 450 had participated and completed the survey in 2 months. We really appreciate your sincere support and contribution for our community. Next slide, please. And these are just a very quick overview. We already talked about this from the survey feedback. People ask us, so what are you? What is our community of practice? What do you do? And if I'm going to use one word to describe our community of practice, what am I going to say? So some people provided really good input, and this is a summary for everybody's input about what they would tell other people what we do, what we are. But we still have an audience to serve that people are not quite clear about what we do, what we are. So hopefully today, I gave everybody a quick overview about what's going on, where everything is. You will feel more comfortable to work with us. But one thing people mention is that conference, and then we'll talk about a little bit more. Next slide, please. Most of the people use listserv. People do participate in working groups. Some people use the blogs, but some people prefer in-person conference meeting and network. Next slide, please. The blog, people agree that it's a good idea that people if people use it, and some people really don't care too much about it, which is all right. I mean, everybody has a different preference, but it seems working. Next slide. A working group, people do see some value, particularly linking to other working group. We have webinar, impact report, and that sort of thing. So it seems to be all right that everybody's okay with it. Next slide. I appreciate this one specifically because some people do appreciate the quarterly open forum, the Zoom meeting for us to come together and talk about our issues, challenges, and so on and so forth. So this is a very happy result for me. Thank you very much. Next slide. In-person conference, this is very interesting. I think we had two conferences in the past, 2012 and 2014. And it's been a while that our community of practice had not hosted any in-person conference. So I'm going to seek opportunities to collaborate with other existing conferences that people actually propose. We may be able to have a little get together when we all go to similar conferences, that we might be able to have a little reception or something, even go out for lunch or dinner together kind of thing. We should still be able to get together once a while in person. Next slide. So without further ado, this is where the key show for all the presenters. And we have really fantastic report. Without taking too much over their time, I think the first person is Aurora. Next slide, please.
Well, thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we're good.
Wonderful. Thank you. You asked about or any type of education food systems, and so when I mentioned a couple of years ago, one of the things I really wanted to raise awareness was about food systems and how food systems interrelate with health, with our environment, with social equity, just all these issues, and how vast and relevant food systems are to our everyday life. And, you know, I like to always ask the question, if, you know, what role do you play in the food system? And almost 100% of the time, well, I'm going to say 90% of the time, people say, you know, everything but eater. They forget that they're an eater and that they are playing an active role in the food system as a eater. So I really think it's important, you know, to drive this home. And so we used FoodSpan. I had originally looked at teaching a food system curriculum put out by the Center for a Livable Future at the Johns Hopkins University. When I went to download the curriculum so I can get prepared, they didn't have it anymore. And they had switched to FoodSpan. So FoodSpan was their next generation food system curriculum. And I was greatly concerned because originally my proposal was to teach adults, and the new curriculum was designed for high school students. So I spoke with a gentleman at the center, and he assured me that it was suitable for, you know, for adults as well, that he would be confident, you know, delivering that with college age people. So we went ahead and tried it with our adults the first year. And these were adults that were interested in learning. You know, they came on Saturday mornings, and because there's 17 lessons, and, you know, to try to keep bringing people back for that, you know, for 17 weeks to this extension office, which is pretty far from everybody, I didn't think would be doable. So we would sandwich 2 or 3 lessons in one Saturday, and we held them every 2 weeks. We brought in the chief operating officer of our food bank here, and had him speak on hunger during the hunger lessons. And believe it or not, the food bank provided us with a box lunch, you know, so that was kind of nice to show all of our participants what our food bank can do. And then at the end, for people that attended, we offered them a chance to do the culminating project, which was a food citizen action project. And that project consisted of identifying a problem in the food system and then creating an intervention to address it. And so we would award up to $599 for them to be able to make that change. And we did receive quite a few out of the 16 people that attended. More than half of them applied for it. And you can see right there the types of things that they had proposed in doing and were able to do. So that was really exciting. The second year, I decided to go ahead and try it with high school kids. One of the extension educators in one of the rural communities asked me if I would drive out there. It was a 3-hour drive. So what I did was lined up 2 consecutive days to teach in a horticulture class in high school and delivered a series of lessons to the kids. I couldn't go for the full 17 lessons, so I asked the children or the students to identify their top 9 choices. And so we were able to do that. At the end, we gave them also a chance to create a food citizen action project. The only thing was I wasn't able to provide them with grant funding. However, they did come up with some really good ideas that were actionable. For example, the community garden revitalization project and the school food composting was a really neat thing for them to get involved with. They actually did create the composting project. So I was really excited to hear that the educator worked with them after I was done teaching to get that going. And so next slide. And so the final outcomes are listed here. I didn't know how to assess the students. I really wanted to see if they became more engaged afterwards. And so there wasn't any existing food system surveys that I found out there. This is kind of a different topic. So I looked at some existing surveys to assess student like caring and just modified those. And so from pre to post, I didn't see massive changes in the kids' engagement in food system issues, although all of the scores improved, all of the mean scores improved. None of them were significant. It was a very small sample, so that could have been part of it. However, they did seem to be more engaged. They thought about the food system more. They talked about the food system more. And the one thing that concerned me was that I saw decreases in the mean responses with regards to climate change and effects of the food system on natural resources. So those were 2 of the lessons we delivered, and there were, seems like there's some skepticism there about those issues. But FoodSpan is available for free. You can download it off of foodspanlearning.org. The lessons, like I said, there's 17 lessons. They're designed to be delivered in less than an hour. They include a warm-up activity, main activities, a time for reflection, and even optional extension of the lessons that can be provided as homework or further assignments. And they are aligned with the national education standards in science, social studies, health, and food and consumer science. So it's a really neat thing. It's turnkey, it's ready to go. And I think it was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to doing more with this. So that's all.
Thank you so much, Aurora.
You're
and
welcome.
we will pause a few seconds for people to think about if they have questions, any reflections. While Katie, please move to the next speaker. Next slide, please. Just a hold here for a few seconds.
One thing I didn't say, Katie, was with this curriculum, because it wasn't, it's really designed for high school students, and I did deliver it to adults the first year. Many of the adults that attended were actual college instructors in culinary science or culinary, and they did express wanting to go more in depth. So for people that probably have a higher level of learning already. This may be a little too basic for them, and you may want to develop more if you're going to use it for adults.
Sure. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
The next presenter is Kristen. Kristen, are you ready?
I am, yeah. And
All
Aurora, that
right.
was really interesting.
Good.
That
Take
it
it over
sounds
from
like there's
yeah.
okay. It sounds like there's a real need to maybe develop that curriculum into one that's meant for adults.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
I made a note to take a look at it later.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Now remember, you got 4 minutes here. Okay.
Okay. I don't think I'll need 4 minutes, but so my name is Kristen Woods, and I am a regional extension associate with Cornell University for the Produce Safety Alliance. And that's the organization that I'm going to be talking about today. Prior to working with the Produce Safety Alliance, I was involved, I was a member of this community. I was doing a lot of food system support in a rural area of Alabama where I live. So helping folks navigate regulatory requirements so they could start food businesses of different sizes, helping growers meet the gap requirements and get ready for markets and such. But for the last few years, I've been very focused on produce safety in working for Cornell University. I am still in Alabama and I serve the Southeast. So the way that works is that Cornell University pays Auburn University and Auburn pays me. So I've been a user of these materials, an observer for years. And I'm glad to get to participate in a small way today. So the Produce Safety Alliance was established in 2010 as a cooperative agreement between Cornell University, FDA, and USDA. And the overall goal is focused on outreach and education, specifically for the Food Safety Modernization Act Produce Safety Rule. So this piece of legislation was passed in 2011, I think, and it took several years before we actually saw the regulation itself. It was published in 2015, and then we launched training for Produce Safety Alliance training in 2016. So we developed a standardized curriculum to go along with this new regulatory requirement, and we spent the last couple of years rolling that out nationwide. And the goal, of course, is to assist produce growers with meeting regulatory requirements. Next slide. And then, so we've done this for a couple of years now, and the compliance dates for our smallest growers have actually just passed this week. So we're increasing our focus on that particular demographic, our small and local growers that are feeding local food systems, right? So we're working on developing PSA lead trainers for the Produce Safety Alliance curriculum across the country, supporting trainings that are occurring on the local level, and developing advanced workshops that are occurring regionally across the country. We want to make sure that we're getting to the smallest growers and to the regionally associated growers, and not just getting to the very large growers that are hitting the export markets and sending food across the United States and across the world. So that's really our focus for the next couple of years. We're looking at addressing their needs, developing curriculum to address those needs of the smallest growers. Next slide. Okay, so this is the Produce Safety Alliance team. It's a fairly small team, and I'm going to go counterclockwise around the map for you. But we've got Don Steckel in the Midwest. He has an expertise in water and environmental testing and water testing. So he's a great resource for us because irrigation water and post-harvest water is a big issue for growers. We have Connie Fisk, who serves the Northwest region of the country, and she has a great background in horticulture and farming there too. We have Donna Paul in the Southwest. California keeps Donna extremely busy, but she actually comes from a small produce growing operation that serves local farmers markets in the Maryland area. And then you've got me in the Southeast. I have an extension background and a food industry background prior to that, and I live in a very rural area in Vineland, Alabama. be exact. And I have a real interest in serving my local growers in my area of Alabama, where I live specifically. And then we have the folks up in the Northeast that are, most of them are based at Cornell. So I got Betsy Ben, who's our director there at Cornell, and Gretchen Wall's our coordinator. She also serves as the regional person for the Northeast. Laura Acuna Maldonado, she is our newest hire, and she was specifically hired to help with outreach for Spanish-speaking populations in the United States. So she's been a great asset. She's focused on translating our materials, and hopefully this coming year she'll be translating everything on our website so that we have a Spanish website as well. And then we've got Rob Way and Michelle Humison that do a lot of the backbone work for the organization. Next slide. All right, so this is our website. I'm going to just point you to more information. You can find our contact information there, and as well as a trainer directory and a training directory. So if anyone's interested in taking a grower training course or a train the trainer course so that they can teach growers produce safety, then there's all kinds of information on there. We have a listserv, we're on Twitter, and we're also on Facebook. So thank you guys for letting me talk today.
Thank you so much, Kristen. We'll give people maybe a few seconds to think about it. If they want to type in any questions for you, they can put in the chat box. And I will remind everybody that there's a slide, all the slides are available for public viewing on our Community of Practice website. You would be able to see their contact information, find the people, and so on and so forth. So please don't panic if you don't have enough time to write down the information. All this will be available for you. No charge.
Yep.
All right.
There's
Okay.
a section about the courses being available in Spanish, and yes, the curriculum is available in Spanish now. We have many trainers that are bilingual, and they're teaching in Spanish. There's an organization called GIFSAN that's run out of the University of Maryland that's focused on training outside the country, so in Latin America too.
Fantastic. That's even better. Thank you so much. Next slides, we have Courtney Long. Courtney, I know you're online. Are you ready?
I sure am. Can you hear me?
Courtney, yeah, you got 4 minutes.
Sweet, cool. Hi everybody, my name is Courtney. I work with Iowa State University and coordinate the food systems program, as well as the community food systems. We're going through a little reorg. So I'm gonna specifically talk about our curriculum today for community food systems. We have a few different certifications that launched nationally this year. Our process or systems framework is to look at the food system from 5 food system sectors and then 6 community asset areas. And both of the certifications focus on engagement or strategic planning as it relates to food systems. So on this slide is a lot of my contact information, or if you want to know a little bit more about our program, you can check out that website. Our community food systems annual event is going to be in Des Moines on March 29th. And in the afternoon, we are having a kind of a working session on food systems curriculum. We've been working with a lot of different partners. 10 different states have hosted our pilot so far. So we'll have some time to debrief and just talk about hopefully a lot of the programs that are being shared today then as well. So if you want more information on that, it's in Des Moines on March 29th. And then we also have our first Train the Trainer program for our local food leader as a pre-workshop. So for anyone who is certified, they can become a trainer, and that's on March 28th. I'll talk a little bit more about that if you'd go to the next slide. Perfect. So our local food leader is really focused on individuals interested in getting more foundational skills and engagement in the food system. So this is a one-day workshop that is primarily activity-based, and then individuals have the opportunity to access 4 online modules following that, which go into the community food systems framework, methods of engagement, building teams, and then evaluation. Primarily, the online certification is more reflection-based, as well as activities or homework. And based on their completion of those, they will be able to become trainers if they'd like to offer the platform in their states. So I'll share that we have finished, again, all 10 states of our pilot. So we are getting ready to trial a hub training for this and community food systems this summer. So if anyone's interested in hosting that, we have a grant to offer 3 hub certifications and are looking for partnerships. Go to the next slide. Our community food system certification is more around strategic planning in food systems. And so this is a 2-day workshop on community frameworks, building goals, creating consensus about what we could, should do together. We also go through a community food systems assessment process. We do not teach in depth the community food systems assessment in person, but in terms of the 6 online modules then that people can have access to afterwards, we do go through a tutorial on developing a community food systems assessment, which goes through GIS, mapping, various primary and secondary data collection methods. So briefly, there's 5 different levels of certification for this because we're finding out that it's a quite intensive program. So people can be a full certified community food systems practitioner, in which case they get access to all 6 online modules. They can be just a facilitator, which would mean more facilitation of the process. They can do assessment, which would dive deeper into that community food systems assessment and more of the mapping components. And then there's 2 levels of technical assistance, which are feasibility analysis or economic impact analysis. There's several different teachers for these programs, which I'm not doing justice to right now, but if anyone's interested in knowing who's teaching these things online, I'd be happy to share those with you afterwards. Last, I'll say that the way we're grading this is more based on observation. So the train the trainer will not occur for this until the fall. We're thinking October or November. And so that's something that'll be launched next year or next fall. Okay, next slide. I think I have one more. Yes, Mapping 101 is the last certification that we're working on. This is more with USDA AMS, Ron Rainey and the University of Arkansas and Southern Risk Management, and then Market Maker and a few others from Iowa State. We'll have an online platform for those food businesses or food systems practitioners that are interested in using mapping as a decision-making process. It's a component of the food systems assessment module as well in our community food systems certification. I know I'm running into my time, so I guess I might just end it there. I'm happy to answer questions. However, I am at NELD in Chicago, so I have to hop off as soon as this is done. So please email me and I'll be sure to look at the slides and hopefully connect with people afterwards.
Thank you, Courtney. Thank you very much. We will pause a few seconds for people to think about if they want to request more information or any questions about how the program goes. Yes, Courtney?
I just saw the question come through for rural and urban contexts. Yes, it is more process driven. And so we've hosted the trainings in both rural and urban areas, and we've conducted the program itself in all scales of communities. So it has been relevant.
And Courtney, if I may ask, is this, and forgive me if you said it at the beginning and I missed it, are you connected at all with the Wallace Systems, Wallace Center's Food Systems Leadership Network? And some of the trainings they're doing?
Yeah, we keep in touch with Wallace Center and NAFSN in regards to like other trainings. They see a little bit of difference in our programming, so we tend to pop colleagues back and forth between the Wallace Center in regards to our programming. We're doing more of a community-based process in which communities can either use it as a retreat or a training practice that they can then use later. And so Wallace has actually sent us a few communities that we've partnered with this past year. Did that answer your question, Brian?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. I'm looking at overlap and trying to think how to use resources well and how to be better partners
Totally.
so that we can leverage each other and really help our communities and our clients and folks that need it so we can keep this going and not overlap too much, because I see that sometimes and I've been guilty. So I'm just trying to always look, how can we? So anyway, thank you. Yeah, fantastic. And have fun at NELD. I loved it 2 years ago.
Thanks. Just some of your colleagues are here. Yes. Anyone central, I'll say hello for you guys.
please. Yeah.
Thank you, Courtney. So let's move on to the next speaker. We're going to switch the gear a little bit because the open forum purpose is to accommodate all subjects. We heard the plenty food system related stuff. Now we do have one subject that most of the time people don't talk about it very often. Some people are very intimidated by these numbers is from the financial aspect. So I have presenter Dale from Minnesota that he would like to share with you a long-term legendary kind of a financial analysis that exists in the US, and he would like to share with you how they came about, they use it, and that sort of thing. Dale, are you ready?
I think so. I've got my timer on. I'm calling from balmy Minnesota, so wanted to start firing away here. My name is Del Lisi, and I've worked with the Farm Business Management Education Program for most of my career. It's a part of the Minnesota State College and University system, and the reason I want to talk a little bit about that is we've been using a tool that the University of Minnesota has had available for many years called FinPac. And FinPac is a financial analysis software that has been used with the small farmers on up to the very large farmers in Minnesota. So we have a 60-year history of delivery, and it's to active farmers. We have 67 instructors, and they work with about 2,500 active farmers in the state, and probably 10% of those you'd be considered small producers. We have one specialty crop management instructor that works with the fruit and vegetable growers in the state. And farmers in this program are college students, but they're not your typical college students because the delivery of the program is one-on-one instruction, working with financial management. And that's one of the advantages of this FinPac program, working individually with producers. Next slide, please. Now, the FinPac program is a financial management software. It's a tool to help teach those concepts of financial management and farm planning. If you look at the lower left-hand corner, when we talk about what FinPac is, FinPac, as I said, is a software that includes balance sheet work, cash flow, long-range planning, an annual financial analysis, enterprises, and historic database information. It's a program that really looks at all financial management for producers. And the unique thing about it is there's 650 crop enterprises as a part of this software program, anywhere from aftermath grazing to yams, and 50 livestock enterprises, actually more than that, anything from aquaculture to veal production. So it's a pretty broad range system, and it makes it very nice for an educator to work one-on-one with the producer in financial planning. Next slide, please. So when you look at that as an educator and working with the producers, you can see some of the options. For example, this day and age, a cash flow plan is a pretty critical piece no matter what size operation you have. And that is one piece of the tool. And the nice thing about the FinPac program, you can take in the lower right side, you can take what you planned in the cash flow and compare it to the actual information that you had in your financial analysis for the year and see how you did along those lines. And then as you are with the program longer, on the top, you can see the individual and group information. You can have your own individual trend showing the financial information or enterprise or crop, either way over time. And then if you get a group of producers together who are similar, you can then develop your data set and you have that comparison information for that particular group of producers. Next slide, please. So as I said, from the Minnesota perspective with farm business management, this FinPac software is a major tool for the producer's toolbox. It just adds so much value to all the understanding that they have of managing their business. And the top section here shows the Farm Financial Management website, which again, as I said, is a part of the University of Minnesota. And then also there's a connection there on the website to the National Benchmarking Database if anybody has an interest in that. The last two items on the bottom are the Ag-Centric and Center of Agriculture. Those are the two centers that host farm business management in Minnesota. So there's more information there as well. So with that, I will leave it open to questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dale. Excellent timing. I really appreciate your nice preparation, rehearsal, whatever hardship you have to go through to do this brief overview. You can proudly tell your colleagues you handled the challenge very well.
I just
Any,
hope I was understandable.
oh, yes. And if anybody is interested in more of these financial related package tools, training programs, we will offer another webinar opportunity to share some updated information about these toolkits, particularly for financial analysis and assessment. Anybody type in any question there? Dale, are you seeing the chat box? People have some questions. One question is about, is there anything like a FinPack for food aggregators? Do you know anything?
I am not sure about that. I
Okay,
can
so
find out about that though.
good. So Dale is going to help us to find out. And the next question is from Dave. He mentioned that there is a Food Finance Institute at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Dale, are you familiar with that?
I am not, but I guess I will be now. So yes, I will make note of that.
That's a fantastic. This is exactly what our open forum is for, is to connect everybody. Let's connect the dots and help each other to become more successful. It's outstanding input. Thank you, Dave. Let's move forward to next slide, please. This group is truly legendary in food system revolution, taking the whole food system issues to the next level into the future that people cannot even imagine the limitation. I mean, to this team, there's really no limit. The presenter is absolutely a legend, and I truly appreciate her time and her teamwork that guided us through the development and initiatives to identify unique opportunities to support the food system development. Don, are you here?
Yeah, but there's no way I'm going to sound nearly as impressive as you just said I should sound. So I should be done right away.
This is the legend, so we all be quiet and just listen. You go for it.
No, that was very kind of you, but I was actually going to start out by saying, even though I'm the presenter today, the one advantage I've had in my career is I've gotten to work with so many teams. So we had to have a whole slide just to name all the people who actually are doing work on the topics I'm going to pretend I'm a representative of. But that's what we're so excited about, is that there's just both in our own state here in Colorado, and you see some of those partners, and nationally we've gotten to work with some of the who's who. So we're mostly just going to touch base with you guys about updates on some of the projects we're doing. So next slide. So I'm Dawn Thomany, and I'm from Colorado State University. But again, this work represents probably about a dozen different universities and partners you saw on the last screen. You've all heard some of our projects that we've been doing historically before. So I'm focusing mostly on three things that are most recent. This year we got a chance to take elements of the toolkit that we worked on in partnership with USDA AMS and drill down a little bit to do more food system community engagement trainings, probably complementary to some of those other trainings you guys talked about already. Specifically, we were asked to do a talk at the Good Food Network conference in Albuquerque, highlighting specifically how we're using the Colorado Blueprint process to engage Denver and new food policies it's creating to come up with workable solutions in our own backyard, because we figured out we've done trainings in almost every other state, but not in Colorado. So it's definitely a link to that USDA Ag Marketing Service Toolkit. But again, we're continuing to look for opportunities for us to either empower other states to do that on their own, or for us to still be in part of the team to take that process forward. The two new things we have bubbling up there are the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture want to do an economic assessment of farm to school programming. We're waiting to hear on that grant because the government was shut down, but we hope to work with them on that. And then second, it looks like we'll be working with a group out of California to look at economic assessment of what the double up incentive programs that the Fair Food Network is doing. So our work in that area continues. Again, in our own backyard, we continue to help with business and marketing workshops and technical assistance on those who are working in direct marketing with their farms or starting new food businesses. So some of that's very much in our own backyard with our Colorado State Building Farmer programs and partnerships with Colorado Department of Agriculture. But we were lucky to be a part of the program at the USDA Direct Marketing Food Summit, which I would love to see this group more fully represented in the future as that they continue to do those. And that was a place we could present some of our national work we've done on farm benchmarks. So it's aligned with what the FinPAC group we just talked about is doing, but we're using USDA surveys they already do called ARM surveys to try to get a representative sample that's national. Whereas the FinPAC is a really good tool if you have the ground force and people to actually work side by side with producers to develop their own set of financials. So they're kind of really complementary to each other because we can present this somewhat representative sample at the national level, and the FinPAC group will allow you to work on the ground with your producers to look at what those numbers look like for them. So next slide. And then finally, complementary to what work that Kathleen has been a leader on, we continue to work in the agritourism web space and have a website that features some work on a project we just wrapped up with that, mostly the research, where we reached out to Rutgers because we figured out they had a really nice set of materials as well. So we're currently working on putting up a set of very short best practice guides that will be added to that website. And then finally, we think we have the first Masters of Agritourism Management certificate you can get in the country. We're offering that through CSU Online, so it's available countrywide. We made it both pretty cost effective through the number of credits you have to have and pretty prerequisite light. So anybody, even without a strong economics background, but with at least some business background, can take that. We just launched that and didn't get it promoted soon enough, so it'll be starting in the fall. Unfortunately, we can't offer it for free because of the way CSU Online works, but like I said, we kept it cost effective so people can point people that way if that's an area they work in. And a summary of all these materials is at Local Food Economics, where we have buckets for both our own projects and projects of other people on this call. So our last thing is an invitation that if you want to have your project featured because it has enough of an economic tone, make sure we know about it and get it onto that site. Sorry if I went a little long.
You have one more slide. Katie, please go to the next slide.
I do.
That's just to summarize what he just said.
Yep, it's what I just said. So we've tried to be a part of the community of practice. We have a website that will host anything that has enough of an economic tone to make sense. We have a Twitter account. We have, we can do Google Analytic tracking for you. So if you do put your project up on there and want to track how it's being used countrywide because you have capacity in your own institution, we're happy to be a host for that. And then the listserv again is, you can sign up for that on that same web page. And I think we have about 200 participants in that listserv right now, which is again so CRFS is the umbrella for community practice underneath it that has a more business and economic focus. Sorry, I forgot about that.
Don, you mentioned that you can help us to do the tracking record if we share the information package program with you. What's the cost for that? How would that work?
It's free. So for the time being, we at CSU have made a commitment to keep local food economics going for at least another 2 years with money we have. And so when we worked with the website developer, he just promised that, up to 2 times a year, if you need to do a Google Analytics report, we can pull down numbers for you on visits to your part of that site. The number we have posted up here is the number of visits to that site in total, but then there's a way we can actually track any pathway in that site to also say how often that's been visited. So, and we can do that free of charge.
Thank you very much. So we'll pause a few seconds. If anybody had any comments or any questions for Don, as I mentioned, this is really a legendary level kind of work that they've been doing this for a while now. And I still remember in the very beginning when I started working with Don, I think in collaboration, just to get some information about what is going on out there, it was very challenging. It's a really, really rewarding and really fantastic to see this much work that has been creating so much impact to help others. Thank you so much for your teamwork.
No, and isn't it fun, Kathleen, to see how much this has grown in the last decade? It's heartening. So I'm happy too.
All right, very quickly, let's share some announcement. Katie, next slide, please. I quickly put together some opportunities since some people still prefer face-to-face in-person connection. These are some of the opportunities that I could find out or I was on the list serve one way or the other that people send me information. And these are not bogus conferences. These are truly accredited associations. So I like to share these information with you and see if some of you or if you know colleagues would be attending these conferences, events, summits, and so on and so forth. Let's start sharing some ideas. Maybe we can get together as a small networking opportunity for us to see each other face to face. And of course, if you know there are other opportunities out there that you usually attend to, workshops or events or something like that, please feel free to share with me or Katie, and then we can compile, say, a monthly list that's reasonable. We don't bombard you with all the email stuff one at a time, but I think what we can do is to consolidate and compile a group information for everybody every month, and then we can share that with everybody. Our community of practice don't have newsletter because none of us has time or the talent to do a good, nice, fancy newsletter. But that's why we pay Katie to do is to maintain our website. At least it's really decent with updated information. Then we can all go onto our website to find the information. Next slide, please. So with that said, this is your time. We are in good timing. This is 6 minutes after 2 p.m. Eastern time. I will hold on a few minutes. If any of you would like to open your mic or type in some questions for our presenters, the people participating, I think we maintain about 16 to 20 participants right now in the time frame, which is fantastic because everybody is busy. So I'm not going to take any more time to say anything. And don't jump in all at the one time, all right? So let's take a turn to see if who has any question for anybody who like to speak. Just please feel free to open your mic or however you want to type the question in the chat box. So let's go for it. And Katie, why don't you facilitate this process?
Well, I'll jump in really quickly. First, thanks everyone for continuing interest in the Community Local Regional Food Systems Network. I have a question that's emerged very recently. I've been working with Duncan Hiltge in an AFS or JFSCD journal and talking with him a little bit about NASFN, the North American Food Systems Network, and asking how we're talking about reimagining NASFN. And our question really, or my question is, how does it fit or couch, or how might we work more together with the Wallace Center's Food Systems Leadership Network, with this group, Community Local Regional Food Systems, and with NASFN. I mean, Colorado State and the Masters in Agritourism, holy cow, that's amazing. So Iowa State, what Courtney was talking about, some of the training and certification. So I just want people to kind of think in general how we can bring some of these groups together, maybe reduce duplication as much as possible, and be stronger together, again, to serve clients, as I mentioned when commenting with Courtney. And so if anybody has any ideas on that, it's kind of just a wide open, throw it out there. But I'm just interested if anybody has any ideas on how we might just coordinate our work a little better.
Brian, this is Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think one opportunity might be, I'm not sure exactly precisely what this opportunity will be, but if we were able to maybe come together and jointly pursue some project funding that may be aimed right at doing that, is figuring out the systems and the incentives, the other pieces of coordination infrastructure, communication, and that sort of thing that needs to happen so that we could be a little more collaborative in this space. I do think there's probably synergies here. There's probably better outcomes for all of us if we can figure out how to do that. But I'm thinking right now, the way things currently are, that, you know, small subsets of people end up on a grant proposal. We develop things. We have the obligation to deliver those products. And sometimes when we're not communicating with each other because we're not working closely together, we end up with overlap at the end of the day. So it might be some way of taking existing efforts that are out there that already have maybe a kind of a track record, something already accomplished, to bring those people together. Some of us have been in conversation with folks at AMS, kind of along those lines. Not sure what might materialize out of all that, but that was all kind of on the training and online training oriented activities. There's probably broader scope out there beyond that.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. And some of the small overlap, I don't mind. When I just don't want to see two different groups both create an online master's or a certification, you know, and something major. It's just a lot of duplicative work. So I just want to make sure we don't do that. So the communication piece, and Don mentioned that, coordinating would be great. So yeah, thank you for that. And perhaps it's that AMS level and USDA friends that we keep these conversations or raise these conversations. So thanks very much.
Brian, I was wondering if there's like a clearinghouse or listing of all the groups, you know, a central location where we would know about everybody.
Yeah, so it's probably almost 10 years ago, maybe just over 10 years ago, I started this community local regional food systems because I wanted that exact information. So I just built a little used eXtension platform and started telling people. And then Sharon Lesberg and some other folks kind of jumped on and we really started getting it going. But the idea was exactly for that, was to communicate and coordinate. And so yeah, we've come a long way and we've learned a lot, but here in the last few years we sort of dropped back. Everybody's so busy. But yeah.
Well, there's some challenges in this as well. We're finding over even in our 3-state effort, North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, to where the original intent of our work was to develop something that could be used across all 3 states. And then we're finding the needs, the institutional setting and the circumstances in every individual state is different. And so there's a lot of state level tailoring that has to go on. And in order for that to occur, you really need to have a stronger set of resources at the core that can sit there and kind of help make those things happen. But right now we're relying upon pretty small grants to kind of bootstrap this work. So I think perhaps a larger commitment of resources, the right kind of resources, and then finding the logical ways to develop things that are in common, that can be used across a number of platforms, number of states, that sort of thing. But then having the resources there to tailor that to individual state or even sub-state needs.
Yeah, and I'm a relative newcomer to this, I mean, within the last couple of years, but I went to a conference last year in Canada, and there happened to be a conference on food systems at the same time in the States, like not that far away. I don't know if you guys know about that, but I was wondering why, you know, why that happened, like what was going on, why were, I mean, the one in Canada had a lot of people from the States there, so I didn't understand why we had 2 food system conferences going on at the same time.
Communication, yeah. It's just, yeah, it's hard to, catch everything. We do that in Ohio.
Yeah.
Sometimes just across the state with schedules and yeah.
Don raised a really good issue about the possibility to collaborate with a market maker, USDA AMS, and Food Distribution Research Society jointly to organize a consistent format and a pattern of a meeting with our community of practice group. I think that's a very good and a very possible venue for us to collaborate because I am a part of that discussion. I've been helping USDA AMS to organize that summit. So I think this is a very positive collaboration that we could reach out to those planning committee members and just let them know that we would like to have an opportunity to become a consistent partner and a collaborator in organizing and supporting their food summit. Because I just did a quick Google search, there are 4 or 5 different food summit stuff showed up, and it's all in different state. I think the most recent one I received the announcement was the New Beginning Farm Coalition that they're doing a food summit in December. That they already sent out a hold a spot kind of an announcement already. So there are a variety of activities going on with different institutions and different organizations. I think for us, for our membership, it probably will be more important to have a consistent forum that's in person, maybe once a year or twice a year. We identify, and by the way, the National Community Development Extension Specialist Association, that one is actually in Asheville, North Carolina this year in June. That may be another possibility because that meeting usually draw a lot of people from community development aspect. People work with the food system across different boundaries here and there. So I like today's discussion, and let's keep brainstorming some ideas and share the information with each other, and let's just do it and make it happen.
Kathleen,
I'm on
this
the board
is
for NACDEP, so by all means, come to Asheville in June. It's going to be beautiful, and there'll be some good conversation.
that meeting you mentioned with Market Maker and Value Added and everything. Have we set the date for that yet?
Don, do you know?
Yeah, it's already set for this year. I think would be kind of pushing it, but it's already set, I think, for October in Chicago, which is unfortunate because somehow there was some cross signals. So
That's right.
FDRS is meeting in Seattle like a week afterwards. But I think there's been an active discussion about making sure those weave back together in 2020. And they will probably always be Octoberish, but 2020, I think and this is why I'm kind of in the loop. 2020, I think there's a good chance it might be hosted in Colorado. We at least have said we'd be willing to talk about that being one of the choices. So, but only 2019 has been set so far, and that's Chicago in October.
So here's something I can add to the mix there potentially on this front. So I'm new to we call it the policy committee with Market Maker. We just contracted with them, and I decided to do something different in the contract. I've been looking for regional food system, food shed kind of tools, basically orientation to Market Maker for a number of years, and I wrote it into the contract this time to where I want to support every year we're supposed to help build a tool set to support a regional food system effort in South Carolina. I'm not sure precisely what that looks like yet, but I think if there's a number of us that are in Market Maker states working with them, I'm definitely open to input from all the smart people on this call today to help us figure out what that looks like for them. What's the suite of tools that they can develop that really helps these regional food systems to have the information that they need, like Courtney's doing with some of this upfront assessment work or whatever. How do we make these things come together inside that tool in a productive way? So I'm wide open to all of that. And maybe even creating a regional food system track within that conference in Chicago, if there's still time for that, but definitely if not, then the following year.
Thank you, Dave. I think that's really good. Now, there is a question in the chat box. I want to make sure that somebody can respond to it. Is there anyone doing anything as a result of the Eat Lancet Commission on Healthy Diets from Sustainable Food Systems? Is there anybody on the call right now who is familiar with that program? No?
What's it called exactly?
EAT, E-A-T. This is in
Oh.
your chat box.
Yeah, it's I'm not on it. It was more a research report that came out, and it got a lot of attention about 7 to 10 days ago. But I looked at the authors quick, and I don't remember anyone that I recognized from this community practice, which again probably tells us that's got more of a research focus and not a community engagement focus. But I actually looked in there.
Okay, because there is a demand right now to integrate health, medicine, and behavior science into food system subjects. So that seems to be the new trend in a whole new slew of the RFPs, call for proposals, those kind of thing. They are looking into more integrated approaches to expand the food system studies, covering more health, social behavior, and some health medicine interaction kind of thing. So that may be a possibility that we can look into that. And thanks to Aurora, I think she was the one brought up this question. So I just want us to be mindful that our community of practice has a lot of opportunities to collaborate and integrate into the bigger food system network and even into the racial equity, inclusiveness, diversity, workforce development kind of discussion. That will definitely give us a stronger base to go after bigger grants together. Is there anybody, any question, comments, or?
Rachel wanted to talk about racial equity in the food system.
Go ahead, Rachel.
That's fantastic. That conference, what, 2014 we started?
Hi. So I did, just want to put that in there, and I added that in the chat box. We started out as a really small working group, and we've been growing, and we're pleased with our growth. We now have a coordinating group of 12 people. And we meet monthly. We've held some successful webinars where we've gotten on different topics about addressing some of the issues that come up, and those are actually, I believe, if you join onto the listserv that I've mentioned, you can access those as well. We do have web addresses also, and I'm looking for that. And of course, when you're looking for something really quickly, you can never find it. But I will take a moment and find that. But I think there's a lot of interest. Our webinars have had registrations upward of 400 people and attendees in that general vicinity. So there's a lot of interest, and I think that we're looking forward to be able to do that. Michigan State University is kind of taken a lead role there, and they have achieved a success with a Kellogg grant that helps fund some of the work that we're doing. So I just, kind of was able to get on here, and I saw that I think I'm the only one from our working group, and so wanted to put that, put in a little plug there.
Rachel, were you at the Cleveland conference on undoing racism in the food system, the very first one that this group held, the Community Local Regional Food Systems?
No, I am actually a really underfunded person. I joined Extension as part of federally recognized tribal extension program people, and actually we don't currently have that grant either. So I'm just kind of hanging on. I'm still I'm on the Rosebud Indian Reservation in South Dakota, and am very much a grassroots person. So unless somebody finds me travel money, I usually don't get to go very far.
Yeah, well, thank you for your work. God bless you. I'll tell you what, that's tough when funding does that, but thank you.
Yeah, and actually, right now, one of the primary issues that we're looking at is, kind of residual impacts of what is referred to as the partial government shutdown, and looking at our SNAP dependent population, people that are dependent upon that, and what's going to be happening with them as the month of February draws to a close. So that's we'll take everybody's hope and for that, and we'll hope things go well.
Thank you, Rachel. Appreciate.
Sure.
Is there anybody who would like to share some information? Katie sent out a little feedback link in the chat box. Before you close the window, we would really appreciate you share with us your assessment, your feelings about today's, how it goes. Did it meet your expectation? Any other topics, subjects, or any information you'd like to receive in the future open forum? And please feel free to share those information with us. And like I said, we're all volunteers, so please don't be too hard on us, all right? And I'm trying to make it as fun as possible so everybody can participate, and a diverse background group can accommodate all the knowledge and information. So if you don't have any particular question, and please feel free to type in the chat box if you still would like to say a few words. And we really appreciate Brian, Katie, fantastic job for everybody, all the presenters. We truly, truly thank your dedication, your commitment to our community of practice, and that make our work so much easier with your knowledge and your skill. Thank you very much. You all have a wonderful day.